VP Sara Duterte says the legal team of former President Rodrigo Duterte for his ICC case is still being finalized. She also clarified that former presidential spokesman Harry Roque is not part of the team as they want lawyers fully focused on the case. Roque is still working on his asylum application.
So far, hindi siya kasama sa legal team, si Attorney Harry. Meron pang darating na isang abogado, i-interview ko siya para sumali sa team. And then once maayos na yung team for ICC, mag-withdraw si Attorney Medialdea kasi meron lang limited na mga slots for lawyers, and we want all the lawyers on board na merong ICC experience.
For his part, British-Israeli international lawyer Nicholas Kaufman, who will lead former President Duterte's defense, says he's confident of an acquittal. He also said that their legal strategy will include challenging the legality of Duterte's arrest.
I'm very confident of the strongest defense possible, and I'm very confident that he will be acquitted, indeed, even at the earliest stage possible.
Meantime, House prosecutors have conducted a mock trial to prepare for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment proceedings. Secretary General Reginald Velasco said about 2 to 3 prosecutors are assigned per article of impeachment. 16 Senate votes are needed to convict VP Sara and bar her from public office.
And Presidential Peace Advisor Carlito Galvez Jr. has defended the appointment of Abdul Rauf Makakua as interim chief minister of the BARMM. That's despite a letter claiming the MILF does not recognize it. Galvez says Makakua's appointment does not violate the Bangsamoro Organic Law or the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro. And joining us today is Storycon's resident political papa, Tito Ronald Llamas. Well, I need to make bawi. It's already Wednesday. I haven't made you Alaska yet. That's so Arne naman.
So Arne,
Make bawi. Make bawi
Because I haven't made you Alaska.
Ganun na yan.
Make bawi.
Kasi that's what we were talking about kanina.
Patiin mo naman si Ami. Tingnan mo, ganda-ganda nung
Ikaw po,
suot.
ate.
Okay.
Mga bulaklak, oh.
From the Philippine Star, Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Ay, summer look yan. Ikaw naman.
Summer
Sabi
look,
ko na, papansin nyo na naman eh.
Akala ko Woodstock look eh.
Oh, maaliwalas, di ba? Katulad kahapon, maaliwalas. Yan yung parang
Everyday na lang.
Pupunta ka sa hardin, di ba?
Oh, parang nagtitwist
Oo,
with
yan, yan. Ha, plantita ako eh, plantita.
Oo nga naman, summer na.
Parang
Summer
may mga
na.
kuliglig sa paligid eh.
Alam nyo, yung hindi pagsama kay Harry Roque, kahit siya yung accredited sa ICC, ay significant yun. Dahil kung abogado siya ng isang akusado sa crimes against humanity, paano siya makakakuha ng asylum? Mahalaga sa, di ba, Ami, mahalaga sa Netherlands yung human rights. Mahalaga sa kanila yan, no? Kaya, alam
Kaya
mo,
unahin daw muna, pakukonsentrate daw siya doon sa asylum bid niya na mukhang harangin daw ng makabayan block down natin, ha?
Halimbawa, kung makonvict si Digong for crimes against humanity, tapos lawyer niya si Harry, tapos bibigyan siya ng asylum, tatamaan naman yung gobyerno ng Netherlands. Kaya, tactical move sa kanila yun.
I mean, it's a fair point, right? Kailangan niya mag-focus sa papers niya for political asylum. And also, nakalimutan natin i-mention yesterday na Netherlands is tightening the rules around asylum seekers.
That came out on their website.
Actually, libo yung nakapila. Libo yung nakapila for asylum seekers, tapos tatalon siya sa harapan.
It's at a
Hindi
record.
pwede yun.
It's at a record high, and naglabas na ng directive ang Dutch government to say that they are going to be stricter in screening applications for asylum, for political asylum. The two grounds that you can apply for asylum are
If you're being persecuted.
On the basis of religious or ethnic persecution, neither
or political,
of which,
or
political then, but it's harder to prove. So religious, ethnic, okay, it's a little bit more
Gender
straightforward.
discrimination, kasama rin.
Can he apply for that? Oo nga. Hindi ko alam.
Wala akong kinalaman dyan.
Hindi, persecution yun eh. Persecution yun. Halimbawa, may mga bansa kasi na bawal yung LGBTQI. Pwede sila mag-file ng asylum.
What does that have to do with
Kaya nga, what does that have to
Hindi,
do with this
sinasabi ko
case?
lang, yung mga iba't ibang mga uri ng persecution tsaka harassment.
Sa presinto tayo
Oo,
magpaliwanag.
kayo naman, dami yung sinasabi.
Nailan ko sa video ito, parang umu-order ka sa takeout eh. Anyway, sige, moving on.
Hindi, tsaka kung halimbawa, meron kang pending case dito about human trafficking at tsaka money laundering, mag-hesitate yung Dutch government. Hindi yun kasi persecution eh. Kung yun criminal case yun eh. No? Kaya kung...
Also, don't forget, this is The Hague, and hindi siya PCA, Permanent Court of Arbitration. But remember, all 6 years of the Duterte government, si Harry Roque trashed the arbitral ruling that The Hague had also issued. So
was
parang,
defending Tokhang, was defending
Hindi, yung arbitral ruling against China, 'di ba?
West
He
Philippines.
was also challenged. He trashed it. And so now he's asking The Hague to be in his good
Give him
graces, to give him asylum. So baka we're looking at a uphill battle.
Saka all over Europe actually, mahigpit ngayon sa
Tama.
asylum seekers and immigration.
There's also
All
some pushback
over Europe.
kasi.
Wala kang mapuntahan ngayon eh. Lalo naman sa US under Trump.
Lalo na sa Netherlands ay conservative yung gobyerno. At
Yes.
nanalo sila based on anti-immigration. No? Ganun din sa Germany.
I was gonna say, Germany din, more recently, di ba?
Yes.
Conservative yun.
Kaka-election lang nila, and immigration was on the ticket, on the ballot.
For the first time sa Sweden, nanalo yung right wing, yung pinaka-right wing. Hindi nangyayari sa Sweden yon sa kanilang kasaysayan. So, nagsusunod
Dati liberal din, more liberal din yung
Social
Sweden.
Democratic
Oo.
or liberal,
Yeah.
papalitan yan. Ngayon, yung right wing talaga, na anti-immigration.
Yeah.
No? Sa France, muntik na manalo si Le
France
Pen.
also.
Muntik na. No? Kung hindi nagsama-sama lahat laban sa kanya, nakalusot siya. Ayun, talaga anti-immigration yun.
Why the wave? Why that wave of
May far-right wave.
Is it a pushback against...
It's a populism, nanggaling pa yan sa Brexit eh. Na blame mo yung immigrants dahil inaagaw yung trabaho mo. Lahat i-blame mo sa immigrants. Lahat kasalanan nila. In a way, parang sa US. Di ba? Lahat kasalanan nila, bagsak ang ekonomiya, yung social welfare, ginagamit, kahit hindi sila nagko-contribute. Tapos yung mga asawa isa ka na sa Netherlands, grabe yan eh.
Criminality as well, di ba?
They steal our,
Criminality.
nakalagay sa streamer they steal our jobs, they steal our wives. Paano yung mga migrants, medyo edukado yan, mga kanyan, well-traveled, tapos pupunta ron, tapos yung mga...
Tapos deep set eyes, gano'n.
tapos yung mga iba, board sa kanilang mga asawa, na iba, farmers, iba, ganyan. So, ang daling agawin. Totoo yun.
Ikaw sabi niyo ng
Okay
guest
sa
mo nga.
analysis to.
Hindi, nagulat ako eh. Nakita ko sa isang streamer, they steal our jobs, they steal our wives.
Ayun, marami yan. That's all over the US.
And the problem is it's hard to counter that narrative, right? Yung
Halimbawa,
very simplistic narrative around immigrants stealing everything.
Nung nagsimula ang Cambridge Analytica, ang isang pinanggalingan nila sa data analytics ay mga middle-aged, white, lonely men. No? Na-weaponize nila yung loneliness na ito. Chinanel nila yung galit sa migrants.
Okay, we have to bring in our first guest now. We have former Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back to Storycon. Thanks for making
Good
time
afternoon,
for us.
Justice
Good afternoon,
Carpio.
Justice.
Hi, Justice.
Pasensya na po sa usapan namin, ha?
Si Ronald Castillo. Wala kami
Si
ginagawa.
Ronald
Kami
po yung
nakikinig lamang.
chismoso kasi yan eh.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to our viewers.
Okay, I'll kick off. Justice, first off, if we could just have you weigh in on Solicitor General Menardo Guevara recusing himself from defending the government over Duterte's arrest. Sabi niya, his recusal is not personal, it's
But
institutional.
institutional.
I repeat, not personal, institutional. Can he do that? What do you think?
Well, I think that is wrong because if you hold a public office, a big one, you have your deputy, you have your assistants. If you have a conflict of interest, if you don't want to handle the case for whatever reason, you should just inhibit or recuse personally so that those under you can represent the agency. because you do not constitute the agency. I mean, you are the head of the agency. And if you say that the agency, your institution is inhibiting, then you deprive the government, especially the president, of legal representation. And you are the statutory counsel. You have only one client, the government. And that is your duty to defend the government in litigation, in cases before the Supreme Court. And if you say that our entire agency is inhibiting, and who will defend now? The president. Of course, the president can ask the other agencies to defend them. But if you have a problem, that is a personal problem of yours. You cannot say that your institution will, whether you are there or not, that is the position of the institution. No. Your next, the one who will replace you will probably change the position. You cannot say it's an institutional position. You are not the institution.
Justice, can I play the devil's advocate? What if lang Secretary Guevara, SolGen Guevara, feels that not taking part in the deliberations is the best strategy for the government? What if, in his opinion, it would not be good or advantageous for the Republic to take part in the discussions?
Well, that will be his personal opinion, because the government has to be defended before the Supreme Court. And you cannot abandon your client. The office of the Solicitor General, tinatawag na yan office, because it's composed of, it's an office, a big one. There are many lawyers there, many assistant generals.
SolGens.
It's part of the executive.
Yes. If you have a personal problem, you do not agree with the position of the president, just inhibit or just resign. You cannot say, oh, we will not all represent the president. That cannot be.
Pero
And besides, yung ground niya, baseless eh. Sinabi niya that the ICC has no jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
But the court already unanimously stated, declared in Pangilinan versus Cayetano, that the Philippines remains obligated to cooperate with the ICC, because the ICC has jurisdiction over offenses committed while the Philippines was a party to the Rome Statute. That is, and according to the court, that is up to March of 2019.
Pero for Justice, from the very start, untenable na talaga yung position ni Secretary Guevara, di ba? Dahil nung secretary siya ng DOJ, dinepensahan niya yung Tokhang. No, dinepensahan niya yung policy ni Digong. Na ngayon ay nire-reject ng gobyerno. Kaya even before this happened, talaga untenable na yung kanyang posisyon eh.
Yeah, I agree with that, because di ba sabi ng Philippine government, when it was questioning the jurisdiction of ICC, the Philippines said that the courts are functioning. The justice system is functioning in the Philippines, because under the Rome Statute, the ICC will come in if the country, the state, is unable or unwilling to investigate and prosecute the crimes that have been allegedly committed. Sino ba yung in the justice system in the Philippines who will start the investigation, prosecution, and the judgment?
The DOJ.
The investigation is conducted by the police, PNP, and the NBI, who will conduct the preliminary investigation. Once the investigation by the police and NBI is completed, that preliminary investigation is conducted by the DOJ. That was under Guevara. Under the office of the president, that means under the control of President Duterte. So the first phase, criminal investigation, under the control of President Duterte. The second phase, the preliminary investigation under the control of Guevara and ultimately the president. The third phase is to prepare the information and file it in court. Who does that? The DOJ under Guevara, and the president controls that. The fourth is the prosecution. Who does that? The DOJ under Guevara, and under the control of the president. The fifth phase is the decision, the judgment. That is solely the province of the court. So the court is at the last stage. But if there is no criminal information filed with the court cannot do anything. The court cannot decide the case unless an information is filed. And up to today, no criminal information has been filed against Duterte for these thousands of extrajudicial killings. So,
Yes.
Justice, ang
who during the Duterte administration was responsible for the failure of the investigation and prosecution? It's Guevara. He was the head of the DOJ. And he said
Justice, ang
that there is no jurisdiction. Precisely there is jurisdiction because he failed to investigate, and that means the government was unable and unwilling. And there's one more. Under the Supreme Court jurisprudence of the Supreme Court, the president during his term in office, while in office, cannot be sued civilly or criminally. So kahit anong gawin mo, a case cannot be filed against the president. That's why the Philippines is really unable to investigate and prosecute because our own jurisprudence says while in office, the president cannot be investigated or prosecuted. So what I'm saying is there is jurisdiction by the ICC because the complementarity rule is satisfied.
Justice ngayon, ang reaction ng Malacanang, tinatanong si SolGen, are you still fit for the job? And there are calls for his resignation. What's your thinking on this?
Well, you see, he was responsible for the failure of the justice system because he headed the DOJ. He should have started the criminal investigation. The NBI is under him, and he should have started the preliminary investigation. The prosecutors are under him. He should file the criminal information. That's under him. And he should prosecute it. That's under him. But he did not do any of those things. That's why the ICC decided to come in. And
So you think valid yung calls for his resignation?
well, that's for him. But I think it's untenable already to be that he will head the OSG because it's very clear that he has been remiss in his duties.
But the fact, Justice, that 11 other solicitors signed, or was it 10 other solicitors signed the what do you call that, memo, motion, manifestation, that's it. Does that matter? Kahit na ano?
Well, there are several dozens of assistant solicitor generals in the OSG, and of course those assistants will sign because the boss asked them to sign.
So hindi necessarily that like it's not like okay, here's the office of the Solicitor General coming together as a united front saying they are recusing themselves. Hindi siya institutional.
Well, even if they all
position?
leave or resign, the office of the OSG will still continue. There are hundreds of them there.
But I think, sir, what Reg is asking is what if there was a consensus within OSG that this is the best course for the Philippine government?
Well, that's
rightly or wrongly?
speculative because there is no consensus, no? I mean, we don't have to answer that because that's not a fact. That did not
Yes, sir.
happen.
Justice, you were in the Supreme Court for a long time and you're familiar with international law. Tanungin ko lang yung opinion nyo, Justice. Pwede bang orderan ng Supreme Court yung gobyerno natin to ask the ICC, pakisoli nga dito si Rodrigo Duterte?
Well, they filed a petition for habeas corpus, no? Under the rules of court, rules mismo ng Supreme Court, you can only ask for habeas corpus if the person you are asking to be produced before the court is within the Philippines. When they filed that petition, nandun na si Duterte abroad. So, tawag namin dyan, moot and academic.
Opo.
Anong tingin nyo, Justice, to sa sinabi ni Kaufman, yung kanilang abogado, international lawyer, na hihingi siya ng acquittal o anong technical na tawag doon, based on unlawful arrest.
Yeah.
Yun daw yung magiging basihan niya sa atake niya, sa line of attack. Unlawful arrest.
And to add to that, turns out this lawyer is known for contesting procedural matters. So I wonder, Justice, if may nakita po kayong butas in the case.
Is that important? Di ba ang mahalaga sa ICC na sa kanila na? Wala silang pakialam kung paano nahuli.
The highly paid lawyer must put up a strong defense. Sabi niya, I will put up a strong defense. But if he questions the illegality of the seizure, of the arrest of Duterte, he will be running against a tremendous wall. There are many cases decided already by the ICC. This is a long doctrine. Male captus bene detentus. Even if you are wrongfully arrested, even if the arrest was tainted
Wrong
with irregularity or
Male
illegality,
captus.
it does not matter for the ICC. As long as you are presented before the ICC will take jurisdiction over your case, and you have to answer the complaint,
Based
the
on the
charges
merits.
against you. So, madami na yan. That's a settled doctrine already.
Sir, you're saying, Sir Bale, the ICC does not really care that much about how you were
he got there.
brought before the court.
Parang
What
Yeah,
matters to them
that has
is
been settled even before the ICC was
jurisprudence na sila.
stated in the tribunals on the war crimes involving Yugoslavia. Ganyan din. That has been there. It even
Condition
started
yun
during the time of Eichmann when the Israeli agents, security agents, kidnapped him, brought him to Israel.
In Argentina.
And he was put on trial, and his defense was, I was kidnapped. But the Israeli court applied the doctrine of mali captus, which is a doctrine also followed by the U.S. and many countries. And especially in the ICC, that has been repeatedly upheld in many cases already. So if, there's nothing that will prevent the lawyer of Duterte from raising it again. But if he raises it, I expect that the tribunal will just deny it again. No? Will reject that motion.
Justice,
for us non-lawyers, male captus bene detentus literally means wrongly captured, properly detained.
That's correct.
Papaliwanag ko yan kay Panelo pag nakita kami. Male
Alam mo,
captus.
the reason behind that is the ICC is not involved in the illegal arrest. Dinala lang sa kanila yung akusado. So they say, we are not party to that. We're thankful to you for having brought the accused here, and we will try him because he's here now.
But
Justice,
they were also citing another case,
Yes,
but I'm not
I
sure
was
if this
gonna-
is ICC.
I was
This
going to say,
Ibrahim versus Ministry
it's
of...
the State v. Ibrahim, Justice. I wonder if you're familiar with that. So see, this came from Harry Roque,
Yeah,
who said they were going to cite the State v. Ibrahim case in order to
That's in South Africa.
argue the point that his arrest was illegal. So apparently, it was a South African case, 1991, wherein the court concluded that it lacked jurisdiction to try a person before it from another state by means of state-sponsored abduction. So we don't know at this point how far they've gotten in terms of petitioning the case, but I wonder if you're familiar with that case as well,
Well,
Justice.
there is an exception to the mali captus rule. If any irregularity or illegality can be attributed to the ICC itself. So it will be in bad faith. But here, I don't see any participation by the ICC in arresting Duterte. The plane was leased by the Philippine government.
I think in the Ibrahim case, South African internal security agents went over to Swaziland to capture a South African and bring him back to South Africa to face the local
He was
court.
tied up,
Yeah.
bound, gagged.
So they went out of their
So-
country to bring somebody back in.
Well, that is a different, that's, yung mali captus naman is not followed by all countries, but that's followed by many developed countries and especially by the ICC. So a country can deviate. Hindi wala namang unanimity dyan eh. So some countries maybe South Africa does not follow that. But that is South Africa. We're talking of ICC. The South African jurisprudence does not bind ICC. ICC is bound only by its own jurisprudence.
Yes, sir. And Justice, this was a time when South Africa was still
Under
governed by
apartheid. Yeah.
Oh, iba yun.
Apartheid.
But of course, ICC will never follow, will never be bound by the jurisprudence of another country. They make their own jurisprudence. They cannot be bound. A country cannot overrule the ICC.
I think
Justice, because of these developments, meron ngayong mga nagsasabi that the Philippines should rejoin the Rome Statute. What are your views on this?
Well, I'm in favor of rejoining because nakita mo naman what happened during the time of Duterte. Duterte was the author. He was the mastermind of the war on drugs. And that's why the DOJ under Guevara could not investigate him, could not conduct a preliminary investigation against him, could not prosecute him. And no case has been filed in court. And that is why the ICC was created precisely for these purposes, for this particular situation where the government is unable or unwilling to investigate and prosecute because the accused is a person in high authority or probably he's a dictator. That's precisely why we need ICC because it happened to us already during the time of Duterte. Everybody was afraid of him.
Yung isang kaso, Justice, sa South Africa, nung presidente si Jacob Zuma, yung kanyang kaibigan na presidente ng Sudan na wanted ng ICC, ay utos ng ICC ay i-hold ng member state which is South Africa. Hindi niya ginawa, pinatakas niya. Siya yung in-impeach nung kanyang kongreso for doing so. No? Dahil nga, di ba, Justice, obligasyon ng isang member state na sumunod sa ICC dahil may treaty sila. No? May treaty sila. Nung hindi niya ginawa yon ay kinasuhan siya ng sarili niyang kongreso.
Yeah, that's why Putin did not attend the BRICS summit in South Africa because, well, South Africa might change its mind and arrest him, no? So that's why head of state will be reluctant to go out of his country if there's a warrant of arrest against him by the ICC.
Justice, I'll digress a bit kasi si Harry Roque wants to seek asylum in the Netherlands. Kaya hindi na lang daw siya mag-abogado pa for former President Duterte kasi magpo-focus muna daw siya doon sa asylum. What do you think of that asylum bid considering he's facing criminal charges in the Philippines, particularly for human trafficking?
Well, I think it was a good decision that he will no longer be a counsel because if you go to the internet, you will see Harry Roque saying that do not vote for Duterte because he's a serial killer. And Jan, he was saying it. Before he joined the Duterte administration, he was telling everybody in that election, do not vote for Duterte. In fact, campaign against him because he is a serial killer. Can you just imagine if he is a lawyer for Duterte in the ICC and the prosecution will present that video and ask him to confirm if that is if he said that. Of course, he said that. So he might cause the conviction of his own client because of what he said. So I think it was prudent that he was taken out. Secondly, well, he can apply, that's his privilege, but the victims of the EJ case can oppose, and I think they're planning to oppose his application with the Netherlands.
I think that's why Ronald here calls him an ex-human rights lawyer. but Justice, we know at this... Di ba maraming times na... But we know from... It's still early days, of course, but we know that the defense is planning to challenge the case on two fronts, jurisdiction as well as potentially admissibility of evidence. What does that mean, and do you see any issues there?
Well, on jurisdiction, that has been ruled already by the ICC, the pre-trial chamber. Duterte can raise it again if he wants, but the ICC has always upheld its jurisdiction if the requirements of complementarity has been satisfied. And I think that's been well discussed already, so I don't think the ICC will change its mind there.
Justice, yung laging dominant sa narrative ng mga pro-Duterte, lagi nila sinasabi, paano yan naging crimes against humanity? 40 plus lang naman yung...
43.
43 lang naman yung pinatay daw. No, yung
sinight dun sa ano?
Oo.
Sa,
So,
Yung charge sheet.
anong tingin nyo doon sa ganung klaseng narrative ng mga talking heads ng mga
Ang
pro-Duterte?
requirement naman, there's widespread and systematic attack on a civilian population. But you do not have to present the entire 6,000 people. The trial will take a century to finish if you present all the victims and the families of the victims. So you choose only for the prosecution the strongest cases, and the court will not require you to present all the testimonies of the families of all the victims.
Tama.
Otherwise, they will never finish their work.
okay.
That's not a requirement to include. You choose only the representative acts, and so I think the number of 46 or 40 will be enough.
Justice, you said before that Article 59 of the Rome Statute does not apply in this case. Instead, what really applies is RA 9851. The local law on
Extradition.
what's that? The local law on crimes against humanity.
International Humanitarian Law.
Yeah, that in particular.
Yung Republic
I think
Act.
specifically, the provision that states that if another international tribunal asks for or makes a request to the Philippine government, then the Philippine government can extradite or surrender the accused to that tribunal. I was wondering, sir, because we do have a process for extradition, but we don't seem to have a legal process for surrender. So how do we implement something like that, for example? Because I understand that surrender is the one that's being quoted as the one used here in this particular case.
Well, we don't have decided cases on surrender to an international organization, but we do have the practice. When we receive a red notice from Interpol, we implement that red notice by arresting, by seizing the subject,
Yes,
and
sir.
turning him over to, let's say, Italy or France, whoever is the requesting party. We do not file an extradition petition before the RTC because it's not an extradition. Extradition is when the requesting party is a state. If the requesting party is not a state, it's not called extradition. No? It's surrender.
It's surrender.
So in this case, it's surrender because the requesting party, ICC, is not a state. And the request was courts through Interpol, so we followed the Interpol practice. Pagdating ng red notice from the Interpol, our agents, the NBI or police will get that person and put him on a plane, and he's sent to the country requesting for his extradition. That is the practice. Now, is that wrong? Do they need a warrant of arrest from a local court? Well, there is no decided case, and the practice is that the NBI and the police do not actually apply for a warrant of arrest in cases of surrenders requested by the ICC.
Non-state.
I said surrendered by the Interpol, and that was the process followed with respect to Duterte.
So it's already being done.
So
even
Justice,
before
ang
Duterte's case.
description dyan is E.S. Majaldea, extrajudicial rendition. May basis ba yun?
Well, when he was executive secretary, the Duterte administration was doing that. When there is a request from Interpol, they don't go to the court anymore. They just seize that person and put him on board a plane. So that
So
is,
even
this
during the
is a
Duterte
case of
government, it
first
was the
impression,
practice.
and if it goes to the Supreme Court, we don't know how it will rule on it. It go either it can. I've been saying it can go either way, but you cannot blame the government because that is the practice even during the
Duterte
Duterte,
government.
Aquino administration, and so on. That's been going on for the longest time.
Yes, sir. So that's interesting, sir. So we have specific cases where the Duterte administration also surrendered.
Well, I'm sure for the last, during the 6 years, ang dami niyan because these Interpol requests come often.
So actually,
Mostly ano yan, justice, mga terrorist sila, terrorist suspects, ang pagkaalam ko, no? But
All kinds
yung
of
iba, yung mga
suspects.
for criminal, ano pa?
Halo-halo yan, ang dami.
So when President Marcos says he had no choice but to hand Duterte over because we also rely on Interpol to help us capture our own fugitives,
It's based on practice.
do you buy that, or did he have room to maneuver here?
Well, that's why I'm saying that is the practice. They just followed it. That was the practice ever since. But if you ask me, is that constitutional or legal? Well, I would say it could go either way if it goes to the Supreme Court. But remember, there are two grounds here. The first ground for just to justify the surrender of former President Duterte is because that is the practice under the Interpol system. The other ground is our own law, Republic Act 9851, says the government has a choice whether to prosecute that person charged with a crime against humanity, to prosecute him here, or to turn him over to an international body. So there are two grounds. So I think it's very easy to defend this case in the Supreme Court. That's why I think the DOJ has a very good chance of winning this case in the Supreme Court because the DOJ in fact cited Republic Act 9851, Section 17. We are given, by law itself, tells us you can surrender. You have a
leeway.
choice to prosecute here or to surrender it to an international body that has already investigated or starting to prosecute the accused. No?
Okay.
So we have
Interesting.
two grounds. And remember, Republic Act 9851 was enacted before we became a signatory to the Rome Statute. At that time, the president was President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and she did not want a situation where a foreign international tribunal will snatch somebody, will order that a Filipino be brought to The Hague. Sabi niya, baka kami yung ipapadala sa The Hague.
Hulihin.
So, he said, we will retain the discretion whether to turn them over to The Hague. That's why nagkaroon ng itong Section 17, an option. We have the option to prosecute him here or to send him to The Hague. So, that is the law before we became a member of the Rome Statute. Then we became a member, then we withdrew. So we're back to that situation where we are not a member. So precisely because of that, we have that option now because we're not a member. That's exactly that's why in the comment of the DOJ, they now use that Section 17 of 9851. We have
So-
the option,
Just-
and we exercise that option.
So in a way,
The law
justice
itself
ba?
the law itself says you can surrender.
So in a way, justice, yung pag-alis ni Duterte sa ICC ay bumanda sa kanya.
Yes, it boomerang on him because now that we are not a member, we don't have to follow that duty in the Rome Statute that the country that arrested him must go to a competent authority to comply with civil liberties, no? To get an authority from a competent authority, that means the local court. We don't have to follow that. We have already a law, and that is what we will follow because that is our law already.
And we are no
That's-
longer a
So
member of the
in a way, it
ICC.
boomerang on him. because he cannot
Yes.
avail of that anymore. Kasi sa ICC, there's a duty of the arresting state to follow certain procedure. Withdraw niya, so we are not bound by that. We are now bound by Republic Act 9851.
Okay.
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 That's clear.
Yeah,
Hindi na
that's
kailangan
pretty clear to me.
dumaan sa
Tawag
local
yan-
court because we are not part of the we're not part of the court anymore, ICC.
Tawag din ng lolo ko, poetic justice di ba?
Very lolo mo.
Lolo mo naman ngayon, no?
Lolo.
Habang kumakain siya ng mangga.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That was former Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Sir, maraming salamat
Maraming
for today.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat, Justice
Thank you,
Carpio.
Justice.
You are watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news in the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon. Pinag-usapan ng mga gamot maintenance ni, huwag na pag-usapan kung sino. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Regina Lay, still with us. Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Diamas, our political pundit na may maintenance.
Nag-uusapan namin, Ami, yung bagong statement ni Bato.
Oo, nakita mo ba?
Na siya ay magtatago. Siya ay...
Tatago daw siya,
In the Senate.
nung una, sabi niya, sasamahan niya si Digong. Ngayon, hindi na
Eh
pala niya.
nakita yata niya, sandali na lang yung session kasi nung Senado, no? Kahit pagbigyan sa ni Cheese. Saka hindi naman siya sigurado pa at this point, di ba? Medyo mababa pa rin siya sa survey. Although tumaas siya ng konti.
Hindi, si Kwan nga, hindi
Hindi
pa mahuli.
sigurado kung mananalo siya eh.
Si ba yun, yung Bucor head?
Si
si-
Bantag.
Bantag, hanggang
Si
ngayon. No?
Bantag, yeah.
Baka ganun gagawin niya. No?
Which is go on the
Kasi
run.
si Gerald
Ay, nakatayo.
Montano,
Tapos, maganda rin.
sama sila.
Oo nga, no? That's an interesting situation. What if he doesn't win? So, paano siya magtatago,
Oo.
di ba? Especially
Kaya
since wala pa yung warrant and some of the legal experts are saying baka it will take months.
Very
potentially.
porous yung ating borders di ba? Si Harry Roque, si Alice
Yes.
Guo,
Pero
nakakalabas.
napaka-unmistakable ni Bato eh.
Si Harry rin eh.
Baka pwede niyang tanongin nga si Harry. Harry, saan ka ba dumaan? Paano ka nakalabas?
Oo nga that's what we were hoping nung...
Si Harry nga, kahit
ginawa.
nakatalikod, alam mo si Harry eh. Di ba? Oh.
Edi lalo na yan. Kaya lang si Harry, sa an international lawyer, meron siyang pwedeng trabaho. Meron siyang livelihood sa labas. Si Bato, anong gagawin niya?
Good question.
Kasi si Harry is wanted only for human trafficking only quote-unquote. Etong si Bato, co-perpetrator yan sa crimes against humanity. Medyo mahirap magtago pag ganyan,
Pero Ami, kung ikaw ay senador, marami kang ipon. Marami kang ipon kung ikaw ay
Automatic ba yun?
senador.
Automatic?
Oo.
Eh?
No? Oo. Unless nakatira ka sa isang
Kaya
kuweba,
lang,
katulad ng iba dyan.
Saan galing
magsasab
mga
ng
ipon?
warrant niya, Interpol eh.
Saan galing yung mga ipon?
Diba?
Paano sila nag-iipon?
Sangkatutak ang insertions dyan, no? Sangkatutak ang mga kung ano-ano dyan, no? Kung ano-ano, hindi ko lang sabihin kung ano-ano yung mga ano-ano na yun, no?
I suppose
Pero
by that you mean
Interpol yan eh. Interpol yung kanya eh. Paano? Iba naman yung kay Harry. Kung ano yun eh.
Exactly.
Order yun ng Philippine court. Kung sakasakali lang siya is an magkakaroon niya ng red notice. Saan siya pupunta?
Ang laki-laki
Pwede
ng
siya
China
pupunta
eh.
sa China.
Ang laki-laki ng China.
But he doesn't speak the language.
And also, I mean,
Mahirap doon. Ako, nagpupunta ako doon. Hirap ako mag-communicate. Mandarin yun eh. Mahirap yun.
Hindi, pero kung poprotektahan ka ng gobyerno, na probable, dahil kaalyado ka, or suportado ka,
is it probable ng gobyerno dito?
ng China.
in China?
Is it probable? Di ba? I mean, there's rumors na kaya nga pumunta ng Hong Kong is so that
Rumors lang yun.
to evade arrest. Hindi.
And what benefit does China get out of
Rumors lang yan.
Bato? Kung sakali,
Kaya nga, kaya nga.
anong benepisyo nila kay Bato?
Well,
What do they get out of it?
Well, poprotektahan mo dahil hindi mo pwedeng protektahan yung iyong mga kaalyado dahil magmumukha
Walang
kang
ally sa'yo.
undependable na ally, no? So, kinakailangan niyang protektahan yung mga katulad nila Bato, nila Vice President Sara, nila Digong, nila Harry Roque dahil nga kung hindi mo tutulungan, anong itsura mo doon sa mga allies mo?
No, but they were allied with Duterte. They don't care about... Would they care about somebody like Bato?
Yes.
Alam mo yun?
Kasama yan sa corner
Crimes against humanity yan eh. Medyo mahirap yan.
I mean, the question...
Kasi si Duterte pwede sabihin political
Hindi,
eh. Ito
yung
is
mga, alam mo,
police
Ami,
chief.
alam mo,
Siya yung
Ami,
implementer.
alam mo, Ami, yung mga hinahabol ng India, ng mga rebelde, sa northern part nila, nagtatago sa China. No, nandun sila ngayon sa China.
Mabilis lang kasi. They share a border.
Sa Urumqi. Hindi, malayo sila. Ibig sabihin, binigyan
Pero,
kagad sila ng
madaling
asylum.
gawin dun eh.
Dahil suportado sila ng China laban sa India. So, nangyayari yan. Yan, mga kwan lang yan. ha?
May border
Hindi mo
May
nagtatagal.
border kasi, may
China
border.
and India.
Mas mabilis kasi may border. But also, don't
May
forget what...
border war sila pati.
Don't forget, wala si Ed Nito noon on our last interview with Bato before the ICC warrant came out. Remember, he said he's not pro-China. Galit na galit siya because we were asking him about his stance. Sabi niya.
Pwede baguhin yung bukas?
Hindi talaga kasi yung mga kasama nga niya, yung mga sundalo, mga kasama niya, mga PMAer eh. They don't like China.
So he was very angry, remember, Ami? Sabi niya, maghuhuramentado siya if we accuse him of being pro-China because he spent his life fighting the communists daw. So
Sabi niya,
would-
I'm against siya. He was fighting communists.
Oo.
And
Ganun din
yung mga
nasa-
kasama niya, kay police, galit siya. Galit siya sa yung mga nag-aano sa mga Southwest Philippines.
Ganun nila sinabi ni Digong kaaway niya yung mga komunista, kaaway niya yung mga NPA. Pero kaibigan niya ang China na komunista. So, ang
Then nung umpisa, remember, nung nag-uumpisa si Digong, he was quite close to the left,
NPA.
to the Reds.
Oo.
In fact, siya lang ang sa mga presidente natin. Ang ganun talaga kalapit.
At-
Meron siyang simpatya, ganun.
At nilagay niya sa
Noon na lang
kanyang
later
cabinet.
sila nag-away
Siya lang ang presidente na nilagay sa kanyang cabinet. 3 na identified
Yes.
sa mga yon.
Yes.
Never pa nangyari yon.
Yeah.
Oo.
Saka siya lang,
Nagalit lang siya
nakuna sa video na
nung
sumisigaw ng
ano,
mabuhay yung People's Army.
Oo, sumisigaw siya ng gano'n.
Nagalit siya nung, di ba, sabi niya, tigil muna, nakiusap siya, wag niyo namang anuhin yung mga pulis ko, yung mga sundalo ko.
Hindi
Hindi
tumigil.
nakinig yung NPA. That's when everything fell apart. Siya pinagbigyan daw. Yun ang sabi niya, kaya siya nagalit. Tapos mayat maya na sila nag-aaway ni Joma, may world war na sila. Break na sila. Ayan.
Marami nag-break.
Okay, ito na natin itong araw na to.
We have to let you go kasi it's
Ano yun?
time.
Magtapusin natin to dun sa Latin. Ano yan? Latin?
Male.
Male.
Cactus.
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 Male Cactus Benedetentus.
Detentus.
Alam ba ni Panelo yan?
Male Cactus
Learned na kayo, learned na kayo.
Wrongfully captured, properly detained. That's from Senior Associate Justice Carpio, who said that's the doctrine they go by. Doesn't matter paano siya nadala doon, but the point is he has to face the case now at the ICC.
Nakakatawa lang itong oxfordreference.com Ang translation niya is wrongly captured, well kept.
Parang kept.
Parang Kepman, Parang Kepman.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay, thank you so much for joining Storycon today. I'm Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Ronald Llamas, a resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.